AQUASERV info session. So the purpose of this meeting is to provide information for potential users, potential applicants of AQUASERV Transnational Access, with information that that makes it easier for them to do this application. The concepts of research infrastructures is not widespread. I would appreciate that microphones would be switched off, otherwise we get echo. And so I'm going to share some slides so that then we can explain a little bit about the project and what is this all about. So just bear with me while I get the slides. And I think you can now start to see them.
Yes.
Okay, so AQUASERV is a European funded project, Horizon Europe funded project. And the primary purpose of AQUASERV is to allow people to apply to go to some laboratories which have special infrastructure or resources that allows them to do their special projects. So this is in a very summarized way. So, but let's just look at what is AQUASERV in itself in terms of the areas that it covers. So as you can see in this slide with many words, essentially what it is we are covering an area that has to do with aquaculture, fisheries, ecology, mostly restoration, and blue economy in general. And it applies to both freshwater and marine environments. Of course, behind this, there are the European policies that are related to the common fisheries policy, the farm to fork, the sustainable blue economy, and the European Green Deal, the EU mission to restore our ocean and waters by 2030. So essentially, what we want is that people do research that contributes somehow to these policies. Of course, this may sound, for some of you, may sound a big job, but what we want is good ideas around these topics. And as you can imagine, these are small projects, short-term projects that will have to be implemented in a few days. They're not going to solve the world, but they could solve your, or you can put in practice ideas that you could not do it otherwise. And that's the whole concept. So we the way we do this is by launching these so-called transnational access calls. What it means is that someone is going into an institute or research infrastructure in a different country from their own. They cannot apply to the same country. So that's why it's called transnational access. But the other aspect about this project is that anyone in the world can apply. We have 8.5 million euros for funding for the next 4 years, and about 20% of this can be used for researchers coming from outside Europe. Well, I've already more or less explained this next slide. What's transnational access? Essentially, as I mentioned, you have to go to another country, and the kind of so-called access can be on site. That means you move physically to that place, but you could, for example, wanted just some biological resources or some data. You don't have to go there. You could ask for this remotely. So these are the two different ways. You can either go on site, or you can also asked to do it remotely. Even sometimes, if you can agree with the institute that you want to collaborate or visit, you could even organize experiments there where they would be running without you being there. Of course, this may be more complicated, but it's possible. Now, one thing that I want to mention at this point is that when you submit a project, and we'll explain this a bit later on, when you submit a project, this project is your project. You don't have to find collaborators in those laboratories. What you have, you're going to have access to facilities, to some reagents, not very expensive, of course, and also you'll be paid. Another thing is, I said some reagents not very expensive. It doesn't mean that you cannot bring your own or ask for the host to buy more expensive materials, which you pay, because you already get some funding here. And so this could co-fund some other funding that you have at home. And so you can always do your research. So we provide the basics, and you could top it up. Normally, we expect maximum 2 users. Sometimes it could be more. But again, if it justifies more than 2 applicants, so 2 people coming, you call them users, then you have to pay for the 3rd person. But then you already get some funding. That's not too bad. So these are just some initial concepts, but don't forget what I said before, is it's your project. You don't have to find collaborators. Of course, if you don't have the knowledge and you need a collaborator, that's fine. You find a collaborator. So there'll be someone to help you, and this person can be your collaborator. Well, when we talk about this is because, in the end, you could publish a paper just on your own because you did all the work. You acknowledge, of course, the project and the fact that you have been able to do this, but it would be your own work without having to share it with anyone. On the other hand, there is also the possibility of getting help and basically to become a collaborator and eventually a co-author. I mean, that all depends on the arrangements. I've already mentioned some of this. So the way we are doing things is we have this call that is continuously open now for the next until December 2028, because the project finishes in 29. And every 4 months, we give results. So in meanwhile, of course, we'll be evaluating these projects. They have to be evaluated and you'll get approval or not. But I will go through those details a bit more. Okay, who can apply? Basically, any researcher that is in an institution, a recognized institution, be it academic or even a company. So it's not an individual that is not employed by anyone that can apply. This is to be by officially recognized institutions. Why AQUASERV? Well, you can imagine we are well-established research institutes and infrastructures in Europe, and we can provide high-quality support for your projects. And this is the countries where you can apply. Within these countries, there could be several institutions. You can find all of this in the website, exactly where. There is a catalog of services in our website that you can look and basically select what's more convenient according to your plan. The kind of projects I already mentioned. So I'll skip this because of time. Otherwise, we'll spend a lot of time on but this is more important, this slide. So This slide gives you an overview of the whole process. Because, as I said, this is to be done in a formal way between institutions. You have to be employed by your institution. So we have the call open. We do evaluations that are estimated to be in March, July, and November of each year. Now, there is in the website a service catalog, and the links that you have to follow. Essentially, the website of the project have some information, but there is a platform where you submit, which is a different one, where you submit your project, but you don't notice it, more or less. You jump from one click to another. We have in the website, we have a handbook that you can basically use to guide you. Now, this is the next point is contact access manager. This is very important. So if you have an idea and you want to know if it's feasible to do in a particular place, so you looked at the website and you found out that you probably wanted to go to Norway, for example, to a University of Bergen. You contact, there's a person that is indicated as a contact, and you contact this person, the access manager, about, explaining what you want to do. Yes, and so this interaction with the access manager allows you to prepare your proposal and, as realistic as possible. And so more likely that it can be approved and that can be accepted. So this is a fundamental aspect is basically don't hesitate to contact the access manager to help you in the preparation of the proposal. You can also contact ourselves, so the administration of the project, if you need for any particular reason, but specifically when you want to visit, you can just contact directly the host institute. Now, after you submit your proposal, there is a review. So the criteria are basically very clear. They are scientific, the quality of the science, but all the projects go through eligibility check, which means that you fit in with all the aspects that are in the handbook and so on. If it's feasible, but if you contacted the access manager and you have agreed with what you can do, it's almost certainly it will go through this with no problems, but we still do a check ourselves. Then there is a scientific review by 2 or 3 reviewers. And then based on that, we have a panel that decides who is going to get the project. I can tell you that normally the approval rates are well above 50%. Of course, essentially, as I said, it's not the numbers, it's the quality that matters. So then if your project is approved, you have a hosting agreement. This is signed between your institute and the host, so the infrastructure where you're going to do your project, whether it's on site or remote. In any case, it will be the same. You still have an agreement. Then you also may have to provide a data management plan. You can also be helped, and we also have courses about how to do this. This is a requirement nowadays in almost anywhere, including the European Commission. And when you visit the place, and so it makes your stay also much more interesting. And after you finish the visit, there is a reporting that needs to be done. It's not complicated, it's very short, but we need that reporting. Of course, in the publications, you have to acknowledge the project in the way that is written in the hosting agreement, and all the data should be open and fair. That is to say, if your intention is to get data and then keep it hidden away for several years, that's not going to work. So that's the idea is that nowadays it's open data. Okay, I think I've already gone through very much detail. So but just reminding you, go through eligibility check. This is recorded. You can access all this. So the applicants must come from a country different from the one where the host institution is going to be, and should be recognized to an academic institution or a company or some other. But essentially, the contract, then the eligibility check it's in the handbook, as I said. Check the service catalog. There's a lot of stuff there. And you can see, from equipment to facilities, all kinds of different things, depending on what you want to do. And don't forget, you contact the access and transnational access. That's what we're talking about. Then you can select, this is the catalog. You can select what infrastructure, what kind of expertise you need. The country, the contacts are there. Contact, and there is the email there. Then you submit it in we call it the area, is the platform where you submit from this website in our website. So you don't have to be trying to find it. I can see many messages. Oh, I see. Okay, so I'll just continue and then see this message at the end. So again, handbook, and there is this email from Stella, is the person that is overviewing all this transnational access. Now, Stella, should you talk now about the area?
I can, if you would like me to. I don't know what really needs to be said here apart from this.
I think it's better because you're more familiar.
Sorry, I think my internet connection is really bad. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes. Okay, apologies. Anyway, so yes, the slide that you all see here, and this is pretty much the landing page of the ARIA application system. And if you follow the link that Anna Aranda just put in the chat, this should be done after you've already browsed the catalog, you've looked at the TA handbook, you've talked to the access managers, you're ready to draft your proposal and submit it. That's when you go to this page. And you see some the steps, the instructions here on the landing page. Then you just register, log in, and submit your proposal. It's pretty straightforward, so there's not a whole lot to say here. This is also the page where you will get informed whether your proposal was accepted or not. You'll get email notifications as well. And then after the whole project is done, you will also send in your feedback form and activity report on this same website. If you have any questions about this part of the TA project, you can always reach out to me.
Okay, so then as I already mentioned, you're going to be, after submission, there is a check to see if it's feasible, eligible, and so on. The scientific review by external, we have a group of external reviewers. The criteria are these ones that are mentioned here: scientific excellence, novelty, overall feasibility, alignment with program priorities, needs for access, and compliance with AQUASERV's ethics policy. Essentially, needs for access means that if, in principle, you go to another institution because you don't have these capabilities to do it yourself. So, that's the need for access. So you have to explain some of these. The final decision will be done by the executive committee of the the project of AQUASERV after receiving all the reviews from external reviewers. And then you'll get and it will be informed by email about these decisions and so on. Then you go to the signing of the host agreement. And then, so this host agreement is a small contract which has a few details that are required, but this will be negotiated between the parts, between the host institute and your institution. And so when you sign it, as it is written, as I mentioned before, you agree that you comply with open science practices, including depositing data in the public archive and publishing results openly whenever possible. Of course, if it's a company, sometimes that's not possible because the company, of course, wants to keep some proprietary information, but there has to be a good justification for not making data publicly accessible. And that's it. That's the talk. This is the funding comes from the EU, from the Horizon Europe, and we are here to help you in your submission. So I don't know if there are any questions. Please, could you write me if I can submit AQUASERV project? Hang on. Moroccan industry also can apply. So that's from Samira. Morocco is eligible. Anybody is interested to submit a project with Bangladesh, you can submit. Outside Europe, there's already a reply. Sorry, I didn't see. So
I think there is one question. Yeah, there is one question from Gottolin Piatot. What if we would like to do a project that would require access to an infrastructure in 2 different seasons or years, for example? Do we do one submission or do we do submissions?
Very good question. Yes. So it could be that someone has a project that requires 2 different infrastructures. For example, let's suppose that someone had an aquaculture project where they did some nutritional studies in one place and then collected the samples they needed to analyze. And some of the analysis could involve, for example, mass spectrometry that was not available in that institution, but was available somewhere else, or, and so in their application, they can apply for the 2 institutions immediately in the same application, and so that they can do their project. So that's possible. There could be other reasons. For example, the fact that I'm mentioning this is a real example of what happened in the past in similar projects. Someone that is studying a particular organism that has a latitudinal distribution from Norway down to Canary Islands, they would be interested to go to different spots along the way. They can apply to go to 2 or 3 places. Of course, then this will have to be well justified scientifically, etc., so that then it may be accepted or not. Justification, of course, has to exist. This is not about scientific tourism, it's about actually getting results. So that is also possible. And it is, in fact, it is an advantage as well. And I can tell you that one of the things we are working in the project is precisely to create some services that will appear as in the next months or years as the project develops, that we call customized services. Essentially, because our base are these European policies, we will design some services that will take into consideration these aspects. And so these services could involve already, this customized service could already involve different institutions. For example, a pipeline for biotechnology discovery. So you start from extracting to finally getting the compound that you are hoping to get. So this could be done. Sometimes you can do it in one institution. Sometimes you may need to do in 2 or 3. And so this kind of pipelines we will be developing. Already will appear in the catalog at some point. At the moment, you can, let's say, by picking different places, you can choose, but our intention is then to provide already some ready-made pipelines. Okay, so I'm going. There's more questions here. Let's see if I don't miss Stella Gotlin. What if we would like to do a project that requires access to different? Yeah, so this is the same question that I just replied. Different seasons can also be possible. You can either apply once or you could make 2 applications. So it's a matter of agreeing, discussing. Can an institution, different teams can be more? Yes, sure. This is about individuals and about projects. It's not so. Although the contracts are signed by the institutions, what we are evaluating is projects, ideas. So you can submit more than one. Even the same researcher could submit more than one. Sometimes, for example, let's say that they submit one now and then in 3 years' time, they decide to submit again. Of course, at that point, we may penalize slightly someone that is applying for a second time. It all depends on how how many projects we get. If we have many applications, of course, we give first choice to the ones that apply in the first that are going to have their first project. But of course, if we don't have the demand, we'll be happy to fund a second time the same researcher, provided it's a good project. This is always a very important point. It's you should design really good questions that are important for some reason that you justify in the application. About the application, I would like to say that it's not complex. You need to provide, I don't know exactly how many, but maybe 2 pages. So Stella, can you say how many words, or is there a limit?
There are several questions and they all have different word limits. I have no idea how many pages it then accumulates.
How many word limits is the project itself?
The project, it's about 4,000 characters for 3 questions.
For 4,000 characters is 2 pages. So you can see it's very short. And so you have to be very clear in the way you write to justify, and basically show that it's good quality.
I have questions here on the maximum budget for project.
Maximum budget. Okay. There are no maximum budgets. Because of course there are, but there aren't. So we don't have a fixed limit. Whatever you submit, it will have to be justified. What we pay is the following. So it's the travel, the subsistence. So depending how long you're there, we estimate that normally most of the times people their visits is for 3 weeks to a month. Sometimes it's less, sometimes could be a bit longer. The maximum allowed is 3 months because that's a European rule, not our own rule. Don't forget, these are short-term projects. We are not a funding agency that are funding, big projects. It's a short-term projects, ideas, etc. So and then we also fund the access to the infrastructure itself. That means the costs of equipment, people, support people, etc. Of course, you don't see that money because that's directly to the host. What we don't support or don't pay is special things. Let's say that you wanted to to do some tests on some compound that was very, very expensive. We're not going to buy that compound. You have to bring it yourself, or otherwise, you know, co-pay. So this has to be discussed with the host itself. So there is not a specific rule, but yeah, there is no maximum budget per se. But you have to keep in mind these are short-term projects. So can it be shared between two hosts or only? Yeah, you can have teams from different so when you say hosts, you talk. I think I've already answered this question. So infrastructure or hosts, where you're going, it could be more than one, but it all has to be justified. It has to make sense. The same way, there could be applicants from different institutions, right? Of course, keep in mind that when it comes then to the legal agreements, you know, that contract, sometimes institutions have different rules, and this may make it a bit more complicated, but we for sure will solve it. But let's imagine that there are two teams in different universities that are working on the same subject, and they decide to go together, to apply together for transnational access. That is possible. So it doesn't have to be from the same team. They also can be from different teams. Is there any written information detailing the scientific scope, for example, restoration theme of AQUASERV? No, there isn't. You have to. I mean, you have to submit your idea, but before submitting the idea, you talk to the place where you want to go. So that's going to be the limitation eventually. If they can do what your idea is, that's fine. If they can support that so that you can do the project that you have in mind, that's perfectly fine. It's not very restrictive at all. Really, although we have all these policies, European policies and so on, our main focus is good quality projects. So even if something, you know, not that doesn't sound like the usual thing, it doesn't matter. You just submit your project if it's a good project. Then Inês Pereira, so it is preferable to have one application for two institutions or perform separate applications for. No, we're talking about projects here. So if you're submitting a project, so on a topic that may involve two institutions, the two apply together. I mean, it's the researchers apply as a team.
May we ask you to place your questions verbally, because it would be easier. Just turn on your cameras and.
I'm just answering first
Right.
in the chat. Okay, Stella has already answered the question. I'm repeating. Sorry, I'm not scrolling. Is there already some projects defined by governments, research institutes, companies that need researchers? I'm not sure if I understand this. No, there is no. These are individually. You know, it comes from the researchers. They propose. This is not about jobs. Is the open access publication in the result of the Transnational Access supported? Well, yes and no. So we are not paying for the publication itself, but don't forget, the European Commission has an open access journal that is free for European projects. And so we can help you submitting there. Also, don't forget that there are different open access. There is the gold open access you have to pay, and there is the green open access that you make available your publication in an archive, and that's what's needed. You are not obliged to pay. So I think this covers. Can you pay some budget for some analysis to applicant's side who is not host? Let me see. So Mustafa, can you explain a bit better? You can talk. Are you suggesting, for example, to pay to pay the applicant to do analysis somewhere else other than the host, than the infrastructure that you're going? Is that a question? If that's the question, the answer is no. So all the support for infrastructure goes to the host, nothing else. May we ask, oh, this is you. Is there a need in the application to motivate why the project fits the themes of AQUASERV? The scientific rigor is more important. We don't really ask how you fit in. We don't ask that question. We just assume you're going to apply within that, and unless it's really off the mark. If you submit a project on medicine, then that's not accepted. But almost anything else can be accepted.
Just sorry, Adelino, just to add to that, there is a question in there about how it fits within the EU priorities, but it's not part of the scientific review.
Yeah, it's just a statistical thing. Okay, sorry, I didn't see your answer again. I'm just scrolling slowly.
There's Grishma. How
No,
can we?
Samira, just there is an answer, but I just would like to clarify. Because of the word you use, if you say we can remunerate a PhD or a postdoc, we don't remunerate. I mean, remunerate means paying some kind of salary, but no. But as the answer is correct, PhD students and postdocs are eligible to apply, so they can apply. They come, they will be funded. Gottlieb, you have your hand raised, please.
Yes, hello, everyone. First of all, thank you for the webinar and answering all those questions that we are throwing here. I have two questions. The first question is there a time frame or a maximum duration for a project? So do we apply for a certain duration, or is there a maximum or minimum period, meaning that you want to fund projects that, let's say, can be at least undertaken within, I don't know, a certain number of months? I'm just asking
Okay.
so I can guide my scientist. And the second thing is, you indicated there was a final step about evaluation.
Mhm.
So what do you expect from us after the project is completed to report, apart indeed from the publications, etc.?
No, there is a small questionnaire, and there is a small report that you have to provide. It's a one-page report. It's just basically to say that you came, you did this. There's a small report. We need to have that documented. Apart from that, we just want to keep track of the development. Like, for example, is it going to yield a publication in the future? We know that this is sometimes not immediate. It can take some time because these are small projects. They could be fitting in other bigger projects. People may have more data from other sources and so on to put together and all of that. So, but we want to then keep track of where it's going. And I mean, we can do that also through scopus and things like that, because of course, with the acknowledgements, people will have to mention the project, but we like to keep track of also of the researchers themselves, because we will invite them eventually to present at some meetings, or for example, we have activities planned for the European Commission, for the European Parliament, and we could invite some of these researchers. We want to keep in touch with them in the future. But your first question was how long? Now, this is a very good question, and there is not a particular answer, but I'm going to give just some examples. Basically, it all depends on what the researcher wants, and also how the dialogue with the host goes, what may be restrictions and so on. And so normally what you would expect is, okay, you propose a small project. It could be just, you could bring your samples to analyze, for example. that's your project. You know, you've done the experiments and you just don't have the equipment and you would like to come and do those analyses. So that may last, you may only need like 2 weeks to do that. So you could be a project for 2 weeks. But there are examples, for example, people that work in mesocosms, they do long-term experiments. They could do 6-7 months experiments. This is also possible in the places where there are mesocosms, but it has to be arranged, organized with the host. And what could happen here is that the scientist, the proposer, the user, what we call the user, would come to set up the experiment, for example, and he could stay there for a week or so. And then the experiment would be running and looked after by the local technicians for 6 months or so. And then the science will come and get the data at the end. So this is just an example of how flexible this can be, but it all depends on the host conditions, if they have the people, etc., to do these things. So there is not a definitive answer. Really, the best is to always talk to the access manager and see if it's feasible, this that you have in mind. Okay. Any other questions?
Well, if there's no questions, maybe I could add something on the data management plans, which is something that the project, once you have your project submitted, you also have to then submit a data management plan, and AQUASERV provides support in this, just to let you know that this is important. Even if there is a publication, obviously is great, but before your publication, you should be able to deposit your data in the correct form, and the project will support you on this.
Yes, and there is there's already a question there that I wanted to answer, but also to complement what Anna said, we're going to have and there are already available courses, different kinds of courses and presentations about the infrastructure. So this will start to come up, and we have now your emails when you registered, and if you agree, we'll ask this question. We can send you this information about these courses, or presentations about the different infrastructure, so that you know better what's available. So that's one. Then there's a question here from Elena Tamarit. That's a very good question. How much does the applicant's scientific merit weigh in the application? And she's thinking about PhD students, that they are competing with established researchers. So an application may include an established researcher, the supervisor, the PhD student, but where they decide that only the PhD student is going to visit, is going to do the work, the visit. So the application, in the application, the applicants don't have all to go. So they submit a project, there could be 2 or 3 members, but only one is going to do the visit. And so, of course, when it's a PhD student, I would advise to include the supervisor as well. Yeah, I think that's the essential. If we propose a project, or if we have an accepted project, we can propose whether people, let's see if I understand. If we can propose whether people, Teams Lab, want to take part in your website. I don't understand, sorry. Can you talk, Emily?
Yes, hi. I was asking if we have an accepted project, if we can share the proposal or the accepted proposal to the other person, researcher, PhD, postdoc, and that maybe have some ideas that can be included in our project, to do a network, international network.
Yeah, I think it depends on you. It's your project.
Yeah, but I don't know if there is a place somewhere in your website where we can connect between people that are interesting to. to do this kind of?
So we haven't thought
Okay.
about that, but it's an idea that we can think about, some kind of network.
Yeah, I was thinking on that because
Okay.
as we are earlier young researcher, and maybe we could help us with ideas and maybe share more equipment and go to platform like to create something more strong.
Okay, well, we can take that into account and maybe get back to you to talk about this. So, Anisa, I'm a PhD student waiting for my defense exam, but still do not secure a postdoc position. You have to have, if the institution where you are is ready to sign for you the hosting agreement, then you can apply. That's essentially it. You cannot apply as an individual. You cannot sign the hosting agreement as an individual. It has to be the institution. So I think this hopefully answers your question. I see most institutional services related to marine environment. Were there any freshwater? There are some freshwater, yes, mesocosms. For example, what's it called? In Finland, they have mesocosms. In natural, what's the name?
And look,
Look, yeah, the look. It's a natural. Not the look, the translation of the name, I don't know, the title, I don't know. But look has got mesocosm in freshwater, and I think there is also, but I'm not 100% if it's freshwater. There is mesocosms from CNRS in France. And if in any case, if you don't find clear on the website, you can always contact us and we can also look around. Any other questions? Well, if there are no questions, we can thank you very much for being here. And also don't hesitate to contact us. Okay, there's a question, sorry. We already know the applicant should be at least secondary. Can a student apply? No. Master students, we decided that master students should not be eligible. So only PhDs. Can you pay some budget for some analysis to applicant side who is not the host? Did you answer? I did answer. We don't pay outside the host. Okay, so it's only the host. Okay, I think that's all. Get in touch with us when you have ideas and want to apply. And that way I can tell you there are already applications going. So it's your turn. It's your time. Thank you and bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you, bye.